Hello everyone, my name is Sebastian Herkner. I'm a product designer sitting here in my home in Offenbach, which is a city next to Frankfurt, and I'm 40 years old. Well, my childhood was on the countryside. It was a small village with 700 people, maybe nowadays 800. My parents, my brother are still living there. And it was not a big city. So it was a really big experience when McDonald's finally came when I was 12 years old. So this was one of the highlights. And then, of course, also traveling with my parents around Europe, camping. And no, it was a fun time. So now 20 years of my life, I'm already away from that city, from that village. And before I was spending their school time and all the things everyone has to do when you're young. And of course, lots of friends and building tree houses and discovering the area by bike. So I think it was a quite normal experience. Yeah, well, my teenager room at my parents' home still exists. So nowadays my parents use it more like a storage space for your suitcases and for their winter coats and some other stuff they are collecting. And I actually don't visit that room that much. We have a guest room where I'm staying with my partner, and that teenager room was quite typical in the style of my parents. So of course I was able to pick that time, maybe the bed or the chair for my studying desk, but it was very woody, I would say. So my home nowadays looks completely different. When I was a teenager, I was quite creative. I was painting a lot, so I had an atelier next door to my teenager room, which was maybe more my personal home than even more than my sleeping room that time, because I spent most of the time in my small atelier sketching, drawing, building things, repairing chairs. So actually this was more my personal space. When I was young, I would say already in the kindergarten, I really loved to be creative, and that was the best way for myself to communicate also with other kids. So I was always playing, sketching, building things with the other kids. And then later at school, of course, I put more and more my focus onto this and spent more and more time with it, visiting museums. So I was really much dedicated that time already to art in general. And then later, during my travels and vacations also with my parents, I got more in contact with design museums like in Denmark, and discovering Arne Jacobsen and other designers, also the German brand Tonet. And so at that moment, I would say like 14, 15 years old, for me it was clear that there's a profession to study design, that there's this job creating furnitures or sunglasses or other products we really have in our life. And this really got my attention. So later, when I graduated from high school, I started studying here in Offenbach. Yeah, well, that's right. I spent an internship at Stella McCartney quite early in my career, or actually when I started, I just finished my pre-diploma. So I went there 2003-04 to do an internship and later also to work for her for 1 year before heading back to do my diploma here. And it was a super interesting time. I was not perfect in English, so it was a good possibility for me to learn it really in the country, in town, in contact with the international team. The studio run by Stella was at that time quite small. I would say it was her third year. So we have been working maybe on her fifth collection. 5 designers, 2 interns. So a small team and very close working together with Stella, and that was an amazing experience. I learned a lot just by this fact that she was brave enough 20 years ago to start a vegan business. And nowadays it's so trendy, let's say, and it's something normal and people discuss even more. So she was really pioneering in that sense. And I really appreciate it. And that's amazing. And it tells you that you need to be brave at the beginning. Even you get a lot of comments and maybe the wind is blowing into your face and you really need to fight for something, for your principle and for your idea. But at the end, it works really successfully for her. When I established my own studio like almost 17 years ago, there was a lot of design about new materials, new technologies and so on. But for me, it was really interesting also to work with crafts, with local crafts, with international crafts. So really the beauty into doing things, visiting artisans in their workshops to discover what they are doing, what is specific in their work, and to challenge them also to do something new, but also, of course, in balance with new technologies and materials. So for me at the beginning, it's always really important to understand the brand. So I visit them, I go there, even they are in Indonesia, they are in Colombia. I really want to see the factory, not just the artistic director and the CEO. I want to see the people behind the scenes to really understand what they are doing every single day. Because all the workers and craftsmen are so important to give our designs, my designs, life, to give them a soul, to produce them, to realize them every single day. So I want to understand what they are doing, what is typical for the work, what is the history behind the brand in the archive, but also is there a common vision we want to share and is there a direction you want to work together on? And I think that's very important. And then of course I have my values, I have my parameters. It's about craft, it's about material, it's about the balance between tradition and innovation. It's about the responsibility as a designer. Interiors for me now is also a new kind of profession. I really love to work on it because a good interior really makes you feel home or feel comfortable even if you're not in your real home. Yeah, well, technology is really important. I'm not just sticking to traditions or crafts. I think you always need the right balance, like we did with the toner chair. It's a mix done in steam bending, very traditional, like hundreds of years ago. But on the other hand, we use also CNC milling for special parts. So it's a balance to get a good product, to mix craft and technology. And I think this is very important about the story in general. For me, it's important to understand that design is an investment. So if people invest a certain amount of money in a product, they really cherish it. And if it's really a well-designed product with a high quality, there's no problem to sell it to someone else. You know, if you buy something cheap and crappy and it looks horrible after 1-2 years or seasons, you will not sell it again, you will just throw it away. But there are too much objects already in the world we just throw away, and the mountains around the city with the waste are growing like crazy. And it's our time now to rethink our behavior of consuming, of buying, but also of designing. A lot of those online brands and fast-growing companies producing, some were not even in their own factories, they cannot provide you that service. They just want to make cash, and they don't care what happens with the product afterwards. They are just growing because they produce somewhere cheap and sell it for more money, and they don't have the responsibility and the attitude really to change something. And I think it's so important now to think about products which are more like slow. You know, we have the idea of slow food, we have the idea of slow fashion now, and I think it's time also to consider slow products in our design process. there are many awards, you need to pay for it or the brands pay for it. And I think I always tell my companies I work with, if they ask me if they should participate in a certain award they have to pay for, I always say, no, spend the money in a new prototype. Let's do something new. Let's do a nice advertising or nice images, or let's do something different. But I think spending money for awards, it's not smart enough, because so many brands get awards. It's a big business actually for those companies organizing awards. For me, there are so many small awards just to discover my designs on Instagram, that someone afford a design of mine and then they sent me a message, yeah, we saved money for 2 years because the product, the table was so expensive, but we really fell in love with it a couple of time ago, so we spent the money now and we saved it, we spent it, and now really appreciate and cherish your design. Actually, in the winter time, I can sleep always a little bit longer, but normally I wake up like 7 in the morning, and then I go early to work to have the first hours by myself, and then I go home around dinner time, then we cook, and then like at midnight normally I go to bed. Then of course the last messages from the bed to clients who woke up already in Australia, things like this. So if you work for international brands, of course, you have the different time zones, so you can even work 24 hours, let's say. So normally I sleep like maximum 6 hours, which is absolutely fine for me. I'm not always in the studio. I'm also traveling with my partner. I go to museums. So actually the life is always around art, design, architecture. It's about creativity. I don't know if home and the feeling of home is always located to a certain space or a space you own or whatever. I think I can feel home even when I'm really close with good friends and it's not my real home, but I feel comfortable, and because there's a great hospitality. There's a good time together, we cook together, we gamble together, whatever. And I think it's not always just one location where your passport is registered. I remember quite well, there was a kind of summer sale in a design store in Frankfurt, and I bought a burlesque table they did for Cartel, and I was like, I don't know, maybe 3 years studying already, so I was like 24 years old. So this was my first product, and I bought a Castiglioni lamp, the Toyo lamp, and so this was the second one. And then step by step it was growing my design collection, and I moved other things away, so I had the possibility and the money to buy more well-designed products, also products which are maybe a little bit more expensive. And nowadays, I would say it's a mix of all. So there are vintage pieces, there are own designs, there are designs by designers I really appreciate, but there's of course also some pieces of IKEA or completely other stores. So I think it's more interesting really to have a nice atmosphere and the concept, and it's very individual, that it's really pays attention to your own attitude. So last time when I went to India, which was just my last vacation before COVID, so it was February 2020, I bought a small wooden chair at a store, and they really wanted to sell me the new one, but I asked, really, I want to have this old damaged one which is in front of the building. So I bought it there, and they shipped it with DHL here, and it's just standing here behind me. I can just show it to you, 1 second. So it's this one here I bought, you see? So this is now part of my home and my collection. I really love it to use it, and sometimes there's a pile of books on it, or a kid is coming and sits on it. And we have bowls from Africa, from Zimbabwe. We have other ceramics from Colombia, and I really like to bring those cultures into my home. So it's not just something, I would say, local or European, whatever, or mass-produced. It's also something really dedicated to crafts in specific countries. if I travel, the big cities more or less look all the same. They all have the same brands, and I think this is quite boring nowadays. I really prefer to go to the small streets next to the high street with local shops, you know, and it's quite difficult sometimes to find those local shops with specific objects which are just produced in that city or dedicated to the countryside. We have a lot of fruits inside, and of course gin and tonic is important for the right evening after work, or some nice wines. Oh well, in Milano there's a small restaurant called Latteria, and it's in Brera. And I was there with friends a couple of years ago, and it's a restaurant run by an old couple in the 80s, I would say, and they are open 2 hours for lunch and 2 hours for dinner, and they have a beautiful pasta limone. And I asked the lady how she's doing it, and she told me, and since that moment when we have friends coming over, I cook this just by the explanation by this old lady, how she's doing. So you need fresh lemons, and you do a little bit onion and garlic and some basilicum, and then the right pasta and some parmesan later. So it's something really fresh and easy to do. So I really love this. I'm sometimes a little bit, if I organize things, I'm quite symmetric. So it needs to be symmetric. Maybe that's something annoying the other people. Then I'm super spontaneous, which I really like. For other people, they can't handle it. Something what I really miss in my personality, I'm not really an active or sporty person, so I would love to ski or inline skating, things like this, but I honestly never learned because my parents were the same, so also not very active. And nowadays I'm a little bit scared maybe with 40 to learn skiing, but maybe I just need to be brave enough and do it and just take the time. My partner just gave them to me, some Stan Smith for Adidas with Kermit the Frog on it. So they've been quite popular the last weeks, me running around with them, and everyone immediately got a smile in his face when seeing the shoes with Kermit on it. I do karaoke, which is sometimes very fun, especially in Asia with friends. But then you have also a little bit alcohol, I would say. So I wouldn't say I'm a good singer. I played some instruments when I was young, like the violin. But this I also quit when I was 15. I was more interested into my atelier, to paint, to work on with materials, things like this. And I was not able really or allowed by my parents to paint the violin, so that's why I quit maybe. I think music is also so much connected to the senses and to your emotions, and it can push your creativity, but it can also stop it. Learning is not trendy. My home country, one of the best materials in the world, human, necessary for my life. Minimal, handcrafted, ceramic, fabric. Oh, Black Forest cake. You ask a German. Can we put both together? Bratwurst. Cider. City. I think future is a teamwork.